大怪盗アルセーヌ・ルパンが残した不思議な宝物ルパンコレクションがギャングラーに奪われた。失ったものを取り戻すために戦う怪盗、世界の平和を守るために戦う警察、君はどっちを応援する？
Hello, and welcome to LupinRecapVSPatReview, the podcast that's stirring up a storm. I am your host, Lokamasi. With me is my co-host, Fefner Masamune. How
Hello.
you doing, Fefner?
I'm doing well.
Today, we're going to talk about the fourth episode of Lupin Ranger vs. Pat Ranger, probably named Forbidden Relationship, or something to that effect. I'm going to run out of ways to say this is not a perfect translation.
There are many ways to translate these.
I think this one's a pretty good translation, though. Having no idea what the Japanese kanji actually says, I imagine this is the what they were going for.
Yeah, I can't imagine there are that many variations of this.
But before we get into the episode proper, I need to pull my weight by suggesting a pre-show discussion question, and I'm already reaching 4 episodes in. I often call this show one of the most watchable shows to exist, at least of the ones that I like. Do you agree with that sentiment?
Possibly.
What's it contingent on?
Well, I want to hear...
The fact that you've only seen 4 episodes.
It's partially that, but also partially, I want to hear what you have to say first. This time you start.
Alright. When I say that this is the most watchable show, I mean more or less exactly that. I just said more or less, but I meant no more and no less than exactly that. I will sit down and watch this show at a moment's notice. Anybody comes up to me and says, hey, do you want to watch Lupin Ranger vs. Pat Ranger? Is it not episode 11? Then yes.
Yeah, honestly, the only reason we haven't watched all of the available ones up to this point is pretty much because of this podcast.
I think what I'm doing to Pfeffer right now is outlawed by the Geneva Convention. By refusing to let her watch more episodes.
Look, sometimes you need a bit of restraint. You don't always want restraint, and I would like to watch more of these, but it's fine.
Do it for the podcast. What I meant by the whole no more and no less thing. I realize when I say this is one of the most watchable shows, some people might think that I mean it's mindless. And that's not really what I mean. Again, I just mean I can sit down and watch it no matter what. There is a lot of depth and breadth to it. It's just not in a way that destroys me.
Yeah.
When I say... actually, you go ahead.
Yeah, because this is a kid show is part of it. And, character relations are pretty good. I don't know, I don't think... Maybe it's that, the shows I watched when I was younger didn't have this sort of complexity, but I think it does stand out. But again, yeah, it's nothing that's just going to, completely destroy you, yeah. But There's some interesting stuff there. Even if it can be on the simple side, but again, kid show. It's got to be stuff that kids can relate to, or sort of, see and understand, because the show does, deal with some adult characters in the Pat Rangers mostly. Or I guess more adult-oriented, technically speaking. What are their ages, actually, anyway? Are they also, teens?
They're young adults.
Okay.
I think Umika is the only teen. And possibly Sakia? But I don't think Saki. I think Saki's a bit, I think Umika is 19 and Saki is 20.
Okay.
And I think Toma's... I think he's 22 or 23.
Yeah, he is probably
21.
He is probably one of the older characters, considering,
2 is 38.
He did propose to a woman. He did have a fiancé.
You don't have to be that old to do that. I came from a garbage town. Let me tell you how young people got married.
Well, maybe let's not.
Now that we're completely off topic, and I'm about to trash my hometown, let's get into the episode.
Alright, so, guess what? It's a Pat Ranger episode. Haven't had many
Finally,
of those.
It's happened. You can rest easy. They do exist.
So, the episode begins with the cops driving towards the scene of a crime. But, of course, before we're even told what's going on here, we just get Kaiichiro angrily telling the non-present Ganglars that he's going to get them. I love that so much.
Just in case they're hiding in the back of the police car and they're going to get really scared.
I love that that is pretty much how Kaiichiro is introduced into a scene. He's either swearing out Ganglars or the Phantom Thieves. I wonder how often he does that when, the viewers aren't actually paying attention to what they're doing.
I just want a quick shot of Keiichiro asleep and he's just muttering "damn you Ganglars" in his sleep.
Ganglars, I'm gonna get you.
Kaito.
So, Sakia tells him not to jump to any conclusions, which, he probably does that a lot. Bank robbery happens, Ganglars.
And in retaliation to this totally normal, calm down attempt, Keiichiro fucking assaults him while he's driving the car.
Yeah, so as Kaiichiro puts it, 15 incidents of people disappearing from locked rooms certainly seems out of the ordinary enough to assume that the Hell Mob is behind it. But yes, he just gets right up in Sakia's face, and Tsukasa has to get Kaiichiro to calm down. Which conveniently brings us to a conversation where we learn of Tsukasa's relationship with Kaiichiro. Tsukasa, of course, has always been the calm, level-headed one, even when they were training in the police academy. We only see 2 flashback scenes. One of them is the 2 of them practicing at a gun range, and the other has the 2 of them taking a written exam. Now, how exactly do you get across Kaiichiro being aggro at a test? He's erasing something so hard that he flings the eraser, which Tsukasa catches with great ease. And then she looks smug about it.
The most intense writing scene since Death Note.
Oh god, I want a Kaiichiro potato chip scene now.
I want Keiichiro to hunt down Kira.
You know what? Yeah, that's deserved.
Light'll never see it coming.
So, back in the present, Sakia just asks Kaiichiro if he knows what Tsukasa's weakness is. Weird question, but a pertinent one in this episode. Kaiichiro apparently doesn't know what it could be, though. Very awkwardly worded. I think you mentioned when we were watching that, there's probably a better translation for it.
Yeah, I should mention I watched the overtime subs when I rewatched this on my own, and they use the word secret. It's still a rude question to ask when she's right there, and in an actual, dubbed translation, you could rely on the voice acting to clarify that, it's a secret that is also a weakness.
Yeah.
It's sort of a problem when it comes to sub-translation, in that it's somewhere between secret and weakness, and it's hard to get that really concisely down. But I prefer secret to weakness, because that sounds like something you'd actually ask.
Yeah. What is your weakness?
You have to tell me if you have a weakness.
Give me your weakness so I may become Jin.
God damn it.
So, the cops arrive at the apartment of a girl named Momoka. Her parents are worried sick, having no idea what happened to their daughter. While investigating, Tsukasa's attention is drawn to a stuffed shark with a schoolgirl outfit lying on the ground.
Sharkones.
It rules.
I love that shark.
With no other clues found on the scene, though, Kaiichiro comes to the conclusion that the Ganglars are definitely behind the crime, which causes Momoka's parents to freak out, so maybe you shouldn't just blurt out that the culprit behind your daughter's kidnapping is the Hell Mob. It's a bit distressing, honestly.
I had a thought about their reaction. To me, it seemed like they were trying to exaggerate it for comical effect. One, do you think that was done to make small children watching the show feel less freaked out? And 2, do you think that would even succeed? It's kind of a rude question to ask because there's no way you could know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was, super exaggerated. It did seem like a serious scene, so, it could have been exaggerated a bit to relieve some tension, but... So, before they go, though, Tsukasa looks a bit uneasy, and then we have the intro. So, back on the road, Kaiichiro looks over a list of kidnapping victims. The only connection between all of the victims is that most of them are women, but not all of them, and as such, there's no way to actually establish a pattern.
I want to talk about the translation, because in the TV Nihon translation, which we've been using so far, Saki says it's mostly young girls, but age and gender distribution are completely random.
I guess.
So is it mostly young girls, or is it completely random, Sakia?
I guess young could signify a bit of a range, but there could be a slightly better translation there, yeah.
Yeah, the quick time. The overtime sub says it's mostly young women, but encompasses all ages and genders.
Yeah.
Which I think is what they were going for. I wonder if that was just a case of they wrote it, put it in the episode, and then didn't really look at it until later and went, wait, that's not what I meant to say.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
The intention would have been like young girls to more like teenagers, maybe young women, that sort of thing.
Definitely not completely random, though. I promise this isn't just going to be me beating up on the TV Nihon sub. I have nice things to say about it later, I promise.
Tsukasa then notices something and has Sakia stop the car suddenly. She runs out to a car selling stuffed sharks from its trunk. Said sharks, of course, have the same designs as the ones Tsukasa had noticed back at the apartment. The cops question the seller about Momoka, but he says he doesn't remember seeing her. Cue the Lupin Rangers cutting into the conversation.
Before we get away from this guy, I should point out that one of the things I've read from people who watch a lot of Sentai was that apparently the Ganglars have the best human disguises of any Monsters of the Week group in Sentai.
Oh my god. Well,
I'll probably put in at least a clip of this guy's smile. And it's like immediately, that's a Ganglar.
Yeah.
That's a bad dude.
I mean, he looks like a normal enough human, but yeah, like the moment he starts talking, his mannerisms give him away.
That's
like,
his real smile.
Before I was even able to say, oh yeah, that guy's definitely the Ganglar, it was revealed.
Yeah.
I just thought it would have been later in the episode. So, the Phantom Thieves referred to the man as Labrum Jaws, and everyone looks up at the overhang of a nearby building, and sure enough, there's the Lupin Rangers, styling on everyone with little efforts.
Red and yellow are posing. Blue is just standing against the wall, like, stock still.
It still counts as styling.
He's not even crossing his arms.
13-year-old boys would still think that's cool.
Yeah. 13-year-old boys, what are you talking about? I'm 23.
I do appreciate, though, that, like, this is the first time since the first episode that we've kind of seen the Phantom Thieves just sort of there. And even then, that was the intro to them as characters and still from their point of view. This is the first time it's been like, okay, we're following the cops, and then just, bam, there's the Lupin Rangers. Sometimes they just appear out of nowhere. They're good at it. So, Red casually tosses out a card, which slashes the man in the face, destroying his disguise. The police jump back in surprise upon seeing this man's Ganglar form, though given the way he was acting, it's probably not a surprise to the viewer.
I also want to point out what Overtime transliterates his name as. Instead of Labrum, they translate it as Love Room. So he's Love Room Jaws.
I don't get either name, other than the Jaws part. I know that one.
I kind of prefer Labrum. I believe Overtime if they say, like, well, it's supposed to sound like Love Room, but I don't know what that means and it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, Labrum.
I definitely get that Labrum is probably supposed to be Love Room, but yeah, I don't get it. But I'd like to point out that Jaws here looks vaguely like Prince Sidon from Breath of the Wild, so I'm just going to be referring to him as Arsene Sidon from now on. I haven't been able to pun off the last few Ganglars, and I'd really like to get back on that habit. So anyway, Sidon's not too happy about being discovered, so he brings out his weapon, some kind of spear with shark teeth. He pushes the cops away and scatters the Lupin Rangers from the overhang with fireballs? Yeah, sure. You do that, Fishman.
That's what sharks do.
Totally. Shark power, definitely.
Have you ever seen a shark?
If you had, you'd be dead. Due to their fireballs. So the Lupin Rangers introduce themselves, although they've already done Kaito change off screen. The cops transform as well, and everyone starts fighting. Notably, Sidon actually does pretty well on his own. The previous Ganglars were chumps when it came to a straight fight, but here's Sidon pushing back 2 Rangers at once with his spear.
We're starting to sort the wheat from the chaff.
Kaichiro prepares what may have been a killing shot, but Tsukasa stops him, reminding him that they have no idea where the missing people are. Sidon gleefully confirms that if he's killed, all of the kidnapped people will die horribly, a fact which stops even the Lupin Rangers in their tracks. Lupin Rangers not fond of civilians dying.
And they already weren't trying to kill him.
Oh yeah, like, they are after the treasure as always, but that just stopped them completely.
Yeah, they stopped fighting at all, allowing Labrum to do an amazing choreographed bit of the fight.
Yeah, so with those cards on the table, the Rangers are unable to stop him as he beats the living daylights out of most of them before disappearing in a sweep of flame created by his spear.
I love how that beatdown starts with him slowly walking to Keiichiro and shoving him to the ground like he's a schoolyard bully.
Yeah. Hey, you can't do anything to me, so I'm just gonna take my time. So the Lupin Rangers are the first to get up and begin pursuits. But before they get away, Tsukasa demands any information they have on Sidon. Yellow hesitates and tells her that Sidon's collection piece has the power to disguise objects. As she leaves, the Pat Rangers ponder this information.
I want to point out something about the word that was translated into disguise. Overtime says that, or Hazumika saying, he's a Lupin collection piece, changes items into decorations, because she uses the English word decoration.
Mm.
The problem is that the English word decoration has been mangled a bit in Japanese.
Yeah.
Not to the point where it's unrecognizable, but to the point where it's kind of weird. Like, that's technically a thing you could say, but it would be confusing.
A little bit, yeah. I think just disguise objects makes a bit more sense.
Yeah, so TV Nihon was in the right on this particular line, and this is why it's like hard to recommend one fan sub over another.
Yep.
Because every single line could be better or worse.
Yep, it all depends on decisions. So, back in Hell, we find out that Ghosh wants Dogranio to buy her some of those humans that Sidon's been kidnapping. Of course, Destra's here to rain on her parade and tells her to buy her own damn humans if she wants them so much. We get to what I can only assume is the first of many moments of Ghosh pointing a gun at Destra because she wants to purchase humans for her boss's sake. Dogranio agrees and tells Destra to go buy them.
Funny you should phrase it like that. Overtime translate that as Ghosh saying, I have done things for Dogranio in the past and now he owes me. So Dogranio buys her the humans for her to use for her own purposes. And then he ends it with a similar line of, like, deals are a way of life for gangsters. Well, something like, deals are an important part of running a gang.
Yeah, that one's pretty similar, but, yeah, that actually does change it quite a bit.
I think it makes a bit more sense. It makes them feel like a gang in the sense that everyone is here because they want to be and they're expecting some form of compensation.
Like Destra, who wants respect, but he still hasn't gotten it yet.
It's not like Rita Repulsa's band of assholes who just follow her around and will never leave, no matter how she mistreats them. Dogranio realizes that he's running a gang. He needs to keep them happy and paid.
So we return to a familiar set piece. Good old Bistro Juror. Kairi and Tuma are giving Umika grief for giving information to the cops. Umika reasons that, even if they're helping cops, they should want the kidnapped people to return home safely. Then Kairi gets up and gives her a bit of a demeaning head pat, just saying I know a few times to a fairly conflicted-looking Umika. And that's something I didn't really notice the first time around, but man, they are really treating her like a kid here.
I didn't think that was demeaning at all. I thought it was sweet. I don't know. Maybe you have different experiences.
Just the way, like, they start the scene by doing, like, that tug at her cheeks thing.
Yes, because
nobody in real life actually does.
Yes. And if they do, you should smack them.
But yeah, just on the second watch through, that little head pat is just, I don't know, like, I don't think he intends it to be that way, but they're kind of treating her like a kid, which is sort of her role on the show by default, but honestly, thinking back to last week when you were asking about, like, conflicting things, like, in terms of the character, I feel like Umeka is probably more mature than she lets on, in that, like, she does have a point here.
She's actually thinking about people other than herself.
Yeah. So anyway, then Kairi breaks the tension by shifting the mood and wonders where Arsene Sidon could have gone. The only information Kogure had given them is that he sold stuffed animals from his truck, but since that got busted, his location is now unknown. We return to the cops who are investigating more crime scenes, finding a stuffed shark in every one. As they drive off from one scene to another, we can see the Phantom Thieves are tailing them in hopes that they do all the heavy lifting.
By the way, I could watch Keiichiro and Sakia pick up stuffed sharks for the rest of the episode.
That's
just like
it.
Holding it at arm's length. And like, there's one point where Sakia points one out and it's like they're sneaking up on it. Like, Keiichiro, look!
I gotta rewatch that scene now. I didn't take that in enough, clearly.
I don't think it's what they were going for, but it entered my mind while watching it.
So, back at the lab, Jim Carter is analyzing one of the sharks. Jim freaks out because he can't find a single abnormal thing about it. Director Hilltop decides it's time for a break and offers to buy him some sweets. It will never not weird me out that Jim Carter really likes sweets. He's a robot. You have no teeth, Jim. Especially not sweet ones.
I like how Hilltop isn't just, like, doing this to ingratiate himself to his subordinates. He says, like, tired minds will overlook the tiny things.
Yeah, like
He
even
justifies his decisions.
Jim's a robot, sure, but you know what? Even he gets tired.
Why am I programmed to be tired?
Swear to God, if they end this series off and it turns out Jim Carter has a human brain in him, that's just going to be really weird. So the two leave, leaving Tsukasa alone with a shark. Finally alone, Tsukasa breaks down in gleeful admiration of this cute stuffed shark.
I actually wanted to point out the way... I can't think of her actress's name. The way Tsukasa is playing the scene and the way it's shot, it's like she's legitimately about to break down, like, why can't we find anything? And then she looks up and has the dopiest smile on her face.
Yep.
It's really good, and I feel like that kind of joke is ruined a lot, because actors are afraid to, like, I don't know, waste good acting on the setup to a joke. But she went all in. I appreciate that.
Yep. She laments over their forbidden love. It's evidence for a major kidnapping case, and she, a cop who is too old and mature to be cuddling a stuffed animal on the job. Can't do that, definitely not. She's the mature one.
Oh, schoolgirl shark, wherefore art thou, schoolgirl shark?
Says nothing.
That which we call a rose would by any other name be such a sweet.
But after a quick check to make sure nobody was nearby, she decides to give it just one cuddle anyway. Then she's gone.
I called out the scene as being, like, really creepy for what it is.
Yeah,
it's
like,
just
it's
so
instant.
silent and so sudden.
There is, like, no effect other than just that cut to the stuffed shark falling on the ground. I'd also like to point out that I think they changed the lighting. Like, before she disappears, it's, fairly bright. But when she disappears, I feel like the room was actually a bit darker.
I could believe that.
Also, of course, there's an ominous white noise in the background, so yeah, it's a mood whiplash.
Watching this scene several times now, I think they did a couple of subtle things to make it creepier.
See, the thing we talked about at the beginning of the episode was super relevant. There is a lot of editing work in this.
There's a lot of subtle things that you might not pick up on, which is amazing for a show where I don't even know what to say for that part. A show where the Zord threw someone with an air horn sound effect. A show where one of the Red Ranger's personality is just damn you, Ganglar / Kaito.
So Tsukasa awakens in a small cell in some cave and finds herself amongst the other kidnapping victims. Kaichiro and Sakia return to the station, only to come back to Director Hilltop and Jim Carter concerned over Tsukasa's sudden disappearance. Kaichiro glances down at the shark, now on the floor, as we cut over to Tsukasa back in the cave. Despite her predicament, she still has a gun. She draws her versus changer and shoots the door down, allowing everyone else to escape. However, Arsene's Sidon isn't far away. Before Tsukasa can follow everyone else, he leaps in and knocks the versus changer from her hand. Tsukasa tries to fight him, but finds herself outmatched without a way to patronize. Unable to reach her versus changer, and in the iron grip of Prince Sidon, Tsukasa assumes that she's done for, since Kaichiro and Saki would never figure out the method of warping there. And that's about when Kaichiro bursts into the room and shoves Sidon out of the way.
Screaming. Fucking tackles him like a lineman.
God. The tackle was still pretty good, though, to be fair. I do kind of wish it was a drop kick.
Yes, I wish he just straight up rider kicked him.
That
would have leaped into the air. Feet first. I always think that's what's going to happen when I watch this scene.
So, we get a proper Kaisatsu change since the earlier one was so short, and the Pat Rangers are prepared to fight. Back at the restaurant, Umika is very bored waiting for Kairi and Tuma to return. When she hears a report on the radio, the kidnapping victims had been found in a forest near the mountain. Umika calls her companions, and they quickly make their way to the Ganglar's general location.
Okay, we need to talk about that scene. You said it was a radio, but it was in fact a tablet computer that she was apparently watching a TV broadcast on. Now, I've never used my tablet to watch a TV broadcast that can be interrupted by a news flash. I don't know if that can happen, or if this is just one of the writers going like, well, they can't just have like a CRT TV in their restaurant like thousands of other restaurants. She needs to be watching on a tablet. This is the year 2018, but then not knowing how tablet broadcasts work. And she's listening to like some infomercial. Because it's a commercial that's going way too long that seems improv. In everything in this show, for some reason, that kind of took me out of the scene as I'm just trying to figure out what's happening with this tablet. And watch, like, first comment's going to be like, you can just get TV broadcasts on a tablet, loco.
So,
what are you getting so upset about?
I'd also like to point out that on their way to Prince Sidon, they do just do a whole lot of flips for essentially no reason outside of just flipping. Mm-hmm. It's on brand.
Gotta give a shout out to Umika's actress, and I do remember her name, Haruka Kudo, for being able to fucking book it in heels.
Oh, God.
She's keeping up with the other two. You could, like, if the camera did not show her heels, you would not be able to tell she was wearing them.
Yeah, I didn't notice either. So
it's probably why she doesn't do a flip at the end with the other two.
Yeah.
It just kind of jumps.
No, can't do that. Nope. I'll break these. Can't repair the suit again. So, as they rush along, Umika spots the fight between the Pat Rangers and the Ganglars already in progress. The thieves Kaito change and join the fight. Points of interest in this fight. Ichigo tries to throw a motherfucker at a motherfucker. Blue leaps in and bops him in the face. And Niku actually manages to tackle Blue to the ground.
The fights in this show are so good.
I still like the fight from the previous episode, but God, this just has a bunch of cool things going on. And again, Sakia just actually getting in there and knocking Tuma to the ground before they just have one of those duels that just, like, they go after themselves but mostly take out mooks.
Mm-hmm. They're so willing to do, like, weird, interesting things in each fight.
Yeah,
like,
they all are different.
He doesn't even, like, pick him up over his head and throw him. He, like, uses him as a battering ram.
Yeah, like, he initially uses him as a shield to block, like, some bullets or whatever, and then, yeah, he just, like, charges forward and throws him at Red.
God. They're like a D&D group. Just doing the stupidest shit they think they can get away with.
I would totally believe that, like, one of the most important philosophies on the show, yes and. So, during the battle, Sangu starts to get the upper hand on Arsene Sidon when she notices Yellow. Remembering the help she'd given them earlier, Sangu decides to kick Sidon over to Yellow so she can take his treasure. Yellow initially chalks it up to luck and opens Sidon's safe, which of course is 7, 9, 4, and takes his treasure. I'm going to dress you, which I'm pretty sure is actually a magical girl item.
Oh god. I looked this up and then I forgot. It's from one of the older, like, I think 70s Sentai. I honestly can't remember what it is and it would take too long to look it up.
Okay.
But, I did want to say about Tsukasa's fight with Labrum. I think at least the kick is a visually matched to her fight in civilian form.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm pretty sure she tried to kick him, it didn't do anything, and then this time when she kicks him, there's like a little shockwave.
Nice.
So I appreciate What?
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and I might be misremembering it or something, but I do appreciate the matching to Tsukasa being helpless to show, like, no, she's not actually helpless. She was just situationally helpless.
Yeah, you just kind of need the suit when fighting a Ganglar.
Yes.
Pretty much impossible to fight him without it.
The suits are important. They're where the powers are.
So, Ichigu's a little miffed that Singo decided to aid the thieves, but she just says that her foot slipped. And God, I love that line. Like, she knows. She's not gonna play that coy about doing that on purpose.
You're gonna try and reprimand me, Keiichiro? I know you inside and out.
So, then she shoots Sidon a few times while he's already down, and finishes off the other mooks. All the Rangers line up, and both Reds step up for a finisher. And along comes Goody, who's been absent from the episode thus far. As the one to activate the finishing move, Good Striker is the tiebreaker here. Also,
Are you going to talk about Good Striker's entering line?
Yes.
Go for it.
He comes in with a line, Good Striker wanders in.
Which leads me to believe that he has spent this entire time flying around the city narrating his life.
That seems like a thing Good Striker would do.
Good Striker flies over the city, surveying it. What a lovely day, says Good Striker.
God, everyone must be so confused about this weird carrot spaceship flying through the sky, narrating his own life.
And I forget what the overtime translated that line is. I know it's slightly different because the note I took is just, it's your boy, Good Striker. Which is what I want him to say at some point.
That seems in character, yeah.
I love him so much. He's such a little shit in a good, endearing way.
So today, Good Striker decides to ally with the Pat Rangers.
He's a fucking narc.
The Pat Rangers combine again and unleash the one-hit strike. Sidon explodes, and the Pat Rangers actually separate immediately this time, so there was far less of an existential crisis this time around.
Ooh.
Also, while we're at it, and certainly not because there's going to be no time to mention it later, I do kind of like their finishing move better when they just combine rather than their Kaiser finisher. I don't know what about the Kaiser finisher it is I don't like, because it's kind of similar. Both are just, hey, we're going to shoot you.
A couple of things it might be. Yugo's suit actor always does the exact same motions of putting their hands way out to the side and slowly bringing them together while there's the aura disc in front of them.
Okay, yeah,
That looks really cool.
Those effects rule, yeah.
And also, you have 3 people at once saying, oh god, now I gotta remember what it says. Ichigeki strike! And then you have the VS Charger guy. Ichigeki strike!
and
that's a lot better than Goody.
And then, yeah, of course, there's the fire trail in that one as well. So, with the Ganglar dead, both teams ready themselves to fight again, but they really should be paying attention to the safe because it's ghost time, baby. Maybe they'll start anticipating her eventually. Anyway, she does a cool move where she kicks the safe into the air and fires her magic beam or whatever it is just as it bounces off the ground. Sidon is now big, but the Pat Rangers aren't having any of that, and they launch the Pat Kaiser. As the 2 giants battle, Big Sidon launches a bunch of mouths from his mouth. The mouths circle the Pat Kaiser, and Big Sidon begins teleporting between them. The Pat Rangers suddenly have the revelation that the mouths are what's warping people, and Sango has the horrifying realization she was not hugging a cute stuffed shark, she was in fact hugging a shark mouth. But it's too late to do anything about that mouth problem, because the Pat Kaiser goes down. I was kind of hoping that Tsukasa's just whatever emotion she was feeling after her realization just drove her to keeping the Pat Kaiser in the fight single-handedly. It is still interesting, though, that one of the Kaisers lost, so we've got that on the table. Because there's 2 groups, that means that the big robot's not always going to be successful the first time around. I don't know if that's really a thing that happened in any other Sentai series. I'd imagine it has to happen from time to time, but...
Yeah, the robots get upgrades from time to time, depending on the show. So there's probably been instances where the robot's lost and the upgrade shows up.
Yeah.
But there's not been a Toei Sentai with multiple teams like this.
Yeah, so...
actually, I think there have been times where there have been, like, sub-teams. Like, there's a backup squad or something.
Okay.
So there might have been instances like that, but...
Yeah, I just think it's interesting that, like, yeah, now that's on the table. A team can just lose at the end. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Another one will jump in.
Mm-hmm.
So, seeing the cops fuck up, the Lupin Rangers realize it's time for them to step in. They launch their Zords, and we finally get all 3 air horns. We also finally get to see what Red Zord does. Net.
It just breaks in half. And he crashes to the ground instantly because he's no longer aerodynamic. No, he shoots some weird energy net, which I don't know why it's a net, and I don't know why it's made of energy. Probably should have just been one or the other.
It's weird and kind of underwhelming. But, the nets destroy the mouths, and then Umika comes in with the whole, buzzsaw and destroys Mouth Prime. But since the Lupin Rangers are doing so well in planes, Goody decides to jump ship, dropping the Pat Rangers on the rocky banks below. The Lupin Kaiser is formed, and we finally get their lyrical theme.
So, I couldn't find a translation for Lupin Kaiser's lyrical theme. I did find one for Pat Kaiser, and it's very heroic. Like, the world is in danger, Pat Kaiser, you must save the world. Stuff like that. Having only listened to Lupin Kaiser's theme, I can tell it's not about that. It is very much a bragging song.
Yep.
Pat Kaiser's song is from the point of view of somebody else. Lupin Kaiser is being sung by Lupin Kaiser, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm glad Lupin Kaiser has a personality in that. Also, I love the intro line for this fight. How dare you destroy my mouth? You think we'll stop at just your mouth?
We're going to murder you. You're going to die here, Labrum.
So the damage done to Big Sidon means he's limited to fighting with just his spear, and it doesn't do much for him this time. The Lupin Kaiser cuts down a tree, stunning Sidon long enough for the Lupin Kaiser to leap into the sky. They activate their finishing move, and Big Sidon dies, exclaiming, "Loose lips sink ships," as he goes down and explodes. With the battle done, Goody fucks off again, though it seems like the Lupin Rangers get more dignity when he drops out suddenly, because they get to fly off in their Zords.
Yeah, they don't fall to the ground like a sack of potatoes.
I think that's just going to be the run-on joke for this entire season, isn't it? Because that happened last time they had the Kaiser as well. Even when they did good, Goody just drops them.
Goody is very much an immature child. He wants to do the right thing, but he also doesn't understand that people don't like just being forcibly thrown out of the Megazord.
So, back at the restaurant, Kogure returns the collection piece to the book. The thieves offer him a meal, but he declines. The three realize that Kogure has never eaten a thing there despite mysteriously appearing to them all the time. How rude. At the police station, everyone's watching Jim Carter's footage of Kaichiro and Sakia snuggling the stuffed shark when they left to aid Tsukasa. Sakia is a little concerned that Jim's been recording them, but Jim swears it's just a record of the investigation.
That fucking footage kills me. Because Jim is shooting it like he's a goddamn YouTuber. Like, he zooms in on hilltops, like, wow, and then he puts the camera to himself, like, wow, that was amazing, guys! Like, comment, subscribe!
What's up, it's your boy Jim Carter. Smash that like button.
Support me on Patreon so I can afford my high maintenance costs.
So, Director Hilltop rewards the group with snacks, and Tsukasa remarks about how surprising it is that Kaichiro figured out to rub his face on the stuffed animal. To which he replies, "But you've always done that." A look of horror creeps onto Tsukasa's face as we're given one more flashback. Tsukasa waits for a room to empty out, brings a stuffed dog out of her bag, and snuggles it as Kaichiro passes by. She doesn't notice as he stands there for a moment, then leaves, expression completely unchanging.
We should point out she's also yelling, "Heal me, soothe me," at the stuffed animal.
That, honestly, is probably the weirdest part about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Stuffed animals are fine. They're cute. You can snuggle them. But
I think they had to make it a little weird, like even the kids watching it would go, that's a little immature.
yeah, that makes sense. Because otherwise it's like, yeah, whatever. So, back in the present, everyone but Kaichiro thinks Tsukasa's adorable. For Kaichiro, it's just a day that ends in Y. He doesn't get that it's a big deal.
It just keeps cutting to him eating that snack cake.
I love it so much because, like, yeah, his expression still is barely changing outside of what is required for the viewer to get that that's probably a pretty good snack cake. But yeah, other than that, he just does not get it, as everyone's just leering at Tsukasa and she's freaking out. So, we end this episode on Tsukasa in despair, her secret love of stuffed animals now in the open.
That's the episode proper. Now I can talk about a few other things. Let's talk about the two characters we didn't discuss last episode. And let's start with Tsukasa, because at first I remember being disappointed with the reveal in this episode of Tsukasa liking stuffed animals.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, so Toma is fighting to resurrect his fiancée, and Toma's embarrassed about liking stuffed animals. And putting them side by side like that, it feels like they used the good idea on Toma and then just threw something together for Tsukasa.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking about it, the trait is less like her liking stuffed animals and more that it's a secret that she has kept.
Yeah.
I think that says more about her character than the fact that she happens to like stuffed toys.
And it is, such a small thing, technically speaking, but, she does not want anyone knowing about that because it is not in line with her personality.
Mm-hmm.
She is supposed to be the cool, mature one.
Mm-hmm. And we talk about Keiichiro not judging her. I don't really think anyone was judging her.
Oh, like, they're
It
not
was
judging
just-
her negatively, definitely not. Like,
Yeah, it's just
it's
sort of a
obvious
weird thing
at
to
the
them.
end that she's the only one embarrassed by this. Everyone else is just like, oh, that's cute.
And I've decided that if a follow-up to a scene is not a specific moment that I can point to, it is instead just something pervasive in the background. It's still technically a spoiler, but not a spoiler I care about. After this episode, Tsukasa's a lot more open about liking stuffed animals.
Alright, cool.
So I think the takeaway from this episode is that Tsukasa feels more comfortable around everyone.
Yeah.
It's just not obvious based on how this ends. It looks like she's even more miserable, but...
Yeah. I do kind of hope there's a little more, where she actually does just, like, get to properly open up without being embarrassed by it, but it is nice to know that, yeah, that's a thing. And
the show's fairly good with characters actually listening to each other and learning from them.
yeah, though I would like to point out, definitely more with the Pat Rangers, I think. Point out before that, like, they're slightly more mature.
And they're actually adapting to each other's personalities and learning from them and becoming closer as a result. Whereas the Lupin Rangers, I think I mentioned this in like the first episode, they seem closer than they actually are.
Yeah.
Like
they still
Kairi feels comfortable enough to tease Umika, but that's also kind of the only way he interacts with her at all.
Yeah.
Even when he tries to... I don't think it's condescending. I still think it's sweet. Even when he tries to console Umika, he has to... I don't even know what he does. Like, pinch the back of her head? He doesn't smack her. I don't know what he does.
It's just like a head pat, and maybe the last pat's a little harder or something.
It's a little... It's just shot oddly. It makes it seem like he's smacking her, but doesn't have enough force behind it. I also wanted to talk about Keiichiro's amazing character in this whole episode. Of just... We know that... We have, I guess at this point they're like backing away from Keiichiro being super judgmental about the Lupin Rangers and the Ganglars.
Yeah.
By having him not be judgmental about literally anything else.
He really isn't. Like, throughout the entire episode, like, he knows about the stuffed animal thing the entire time, but at no point does he ever think it's anything huge, which, again, it's not. Tsukasa's the only one who makes a huge deal out of it.
Keiichiro is able to cause conflicts without being a dick, which I think is a writing lesson that a lot of kids' writers should take away.
Yeah.
Because the thing that causes like the last minute conflict of this show and kind of ruins Tsukasa's day is an admirable trait of Keiichiro.
Yeah.
He is so non-judgmental of Tsukasa that he doesn't realize that it might cause problems if everyone knows.
Yep. Because it's not a big deal to him.
Yeah, why would anyone care? It's stressful. You're in a stressful job. Who cares how you relieve stress?
Yep.
And that's just, I've seen so much media where a character will suddenly act like a jackass to create conflict. And it's like, you don't need that.
Nope.
You can have characters where everyone is doing something that both they and the audience thinks is right and moral that still cause problems, like this show in general.
Yep.
That's the premise of the show. I probably shouldn't have been surprised they were able to do that. We've not gone too far in depth, but we do see a bit more of Umika. You've already touched on her caring about civilians.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that the other Lupin Rangers aren't like, well, our problems are more important. Who cares about them? It's just like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, like, Umika's just the one who's actively thinking about this, and, she acknowledges that they're up against the Pat Rangers, but she also understands that sometimes the cops are going to be doing important things, like looking for kidnapping victims. That's kind of part of their job.
We're trying so hard to get our loved ones back, and we want to stop other people from getting their loved ones back. That's insane. Why were we even thinking like this? And I like how that's not just in this scene. Like I mentioned in the first episode, she kicks away the mooks that are taking away the Forsaken Gambler.
Yep.
Saves his life.
Yeah. despite her being, the sort of youthful, kind of silly one, just at first glance, she probably has her shit together more than the other two.
Definitely more than Kairi. I think if Aya didn't die, Toma would be the most well put together.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But since that happened, he's just sort of broken in a way that I don't really know how well it's going to get repaired.
He is mad and impatient.
I used to be a good person.
Then my fucking fiance died.
Now the world is shit and can go to hell. So that was the characters I wanted to talk about. Let's go over your past predictions. You mentioned something about Tsukasa not being able to deal with the stress of being the responsible one.
Yeah, so...
In some ways you were right.
Yeah. In fairness, I probably should have paid more attention to the intro and also remembered the preview from the previous episode, because to be fair, the show doesn't really ignore that one either. It kind of makes it obvious.
Yeah. I like you predicting it in that way, because it also helped me see Tsukasa's character trait as what it actually was instead of just what it appeared on the surface.
Yeah, because she does need some stress relief.
Yeah, it's not just that she likes stuffed animals, it's that she's so stressed she needs an outlet like this, and she's embarrassed about it.
Yep.
And that makes it better than I initially thought. See, this is the other reason the show is watchable. It gets better the more you watch it.
Yeah, you start to notice more things, like the lighting thing I pointed out earlier.
Yeah, and there aren't really any plot holes to speak of, because the plot of any episode is just fight the monster.
Yeah, pretty much.
At most, you might ask, well, why don't they do this thing from last time? But in this case, they kind of have an excuse in that some of their techniques are locked behind a wayward asshole.
Yep.
Who is just wandering around, narrating his own life.
I'd say get a hobby, but I think that is his hobby.
His hobby is helping Ranger Sentai teams. With that, that's my discussion out of the way.
Let's talk about the Ganglar.
I'm never going to want to talk about the Ganglars.
So,
you think I care about the Ganglar? I think I care about Watermelon Shark.
I do. Actually, to be fair, I don't that much. To be fair, pretty strong. Again, I pointed out, he did manage to push back 2 Rangers, which is the most physically capable we've seen a Ganglar be for this entire show.
I was going to say he's the first really physically imposing and kind of scary one, but I forgot about Firebrand from the first and second episode.
Yeah, Garato.
He's definitely a step up from Roulette Frog and the Painter.
Yeah, Nameri. But,
God, you're good with names.
I do have a list right here.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry,
That's
I'm
also
not impressive.
understandable. I couldn't remember his name by the end of the episode. I only remember Labrum because of Love Room.
Yeah. But I think the other neat thing is just the fact that his physical strength, just like with Nameri, is actually just a part of his normal moveset. And in fact, his collection piece ability is super gimmicky and helps his plans, but he doesn't... Well, no, he does need it to fight when it comes to his big form. Other than that, though, yeah, he mostly just fights with a spear, which also causes fire.
Yeah, this is where we start getting into, JoJo stand-using territory, where it's less about, power levels and more just, here is my power, I am a threat. And I like how, his collection piece was useful strategically and helped him do crimes.
Yep.
But then when it came time for the fight, it was just, well, all I need is my teleporting ability. It's nothing personal.
Nothing personal, cops. He says over and over again.
And Saki is mad at the meme. Tsukasa is mad about the meme but doesn't say it in case Shiro doesn't know what a meme is.
Tsukasa kind of finds it funny, actually.
Would that be Tsukasa or Sakia?
I think he said Sakia.
Yeah, I can imagine Sakia laughing at it, and Tsukasa's just like, stop, make up your own jokes. Don't steal someone else's.
Okay, yeah, I had it reversed. But yeah, and I guess the only other thing is, I do kind of like that reversal where, in big form, his physical strength really doesn't help him at all. When it comes to the Kaiser fight, he is just outmatched, so once he loses his mouth, well, can't do much in this fight.
Yeah. It is a really... The show's just so good with the, like, powers the Monsters of the Week have. I don't know how common that is to Sentai. I feel like from what I've seen of the older Power Rangers I've watched, it's just like this one could do something a little goofy, but it never feels like a puzzle to overcome.
And yeah,
like it does here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've mentioned this before, but I do just love how they all have like a base power and then a collection piece power, and they all just have different dynamics and usability.
Just wait till we start getting the real synergies.
Oh man.
Wait until we start having Gengar's work together.
Oh man. The ones
where
who
there's
actually
multiple base forms and multiple collection pieces involved.
Oh man, that kicks ass.
Oh god. Cannot wait until you get to the rest of the show. It's insane because every episode is good, but the later ones are so much better.
Yep. Man, I know we're not talking about the next episode quite yet, but given the next episode preview, I know that Dester's in the next one.
Things are gonna happen.
Yep. And I know Destra can't be killed off this early, and if he is, it'll be a surprise, but man, can't wait to see him do a thing.
God, that would kick ass. Destra fucking dies in episode 6. Ghost spits on his grave every episode for the rest of the series.
Every time she leaves, and she just goes there, spits on his grave, then goes to the safe.
And that's probably all we have to say about the 4th episode.
Yep.
If you want to follow us on Twitter, we are at LRVSPR. If you want to email us, we are LupinRecapVSPatReview at gmail.com. Email us if you want us to read something or want to be on an episode. We reserve the right to refuse to let you on the episode. Fair warning. We probably won't. We probably won't have to make that decision at all. But it's our podcast. Cool kids only.
Wait, then why are we here?
I was going to make a joke like, so tune in next week for a different set of hosts.
I can't believe we both came in to just diss ourselves.
If you want to follow me on Twitter, I am at Lokamasi. Fafner, you want to give your handle again?
I'm at Fefner Masamune.
And with that, don't expect this upload schedule to continue.
Hey,
until next time.
Good so far.
Until next time, whenever that is.
Adieu.